Uh, Fabulous. All right, we're recording and ready to go. So, hello everyone, and welcome to. We're in week 2 of the Starseed Masterclass, and this week we're going to be focusing on the energy and the vibration of shame and guilt. Pretty low there in the consciousness chart, as low as it gets. So, important energy for sure to clear. Couple announcements. Casey is doing a magical morning at 8:30 a.m. New York time on weekdays, not on the weekends, but Monday through Friday, where he helps you stay, accountable for doing some of the practices and exercises that he talks about in the Hour of Power. And it's so great to start off your day with everybody together with an intention of being in alignment with that you are lovable, which is what we're working on this week. And it's also in alignment with releasing shame and guilt. We can't release shame and guilt if we're not feeling lovable. So doing that VAX exercises, and then he's always throwing in either some IFS or a little Qigong or breathing or meditation and different things. Might be like, I don't feel like getting on, but it's just about 15 minutes, maybe 20, and it kind of really sets the tone for the day. So you should be getting a link for that every morning. Again, so much apology for those who've had trouble with the email. We're really having trouble with our GoDaddy email server. We're changing that over. Hopefully everybody is finally straightened out. We are posting links and replays on Facebook just in case for some reason things are going into your spam. Please check spam and your promotion file to just make sure things aren't there. And I'm going to stay on today after the call and answer your questions and do a little Q&A. So when we're finished the call, for those of you who are feeling good and complete, go on with your beautiful day. And anybody who has questions and wants to stay back and either ask a question or listen to the questions answered, I'm going to be available for that after the call. Okay, I think that kind of covers everything. I'm going to send out an email after this call that's going to have all of week 1, all the replays from the Saturday call, the Thursday night activation, Casey's Hour of Power. And so all be in one place, so you don't have to go looking for it. And then at the very end of the whole course, you'll get one email with every single replay and the notes and the PDFs and all the stuff in one place, so you're not like scrambling to find, hey, where was that call on whatever. The regression work that we do on Thursday night is really powerful. Those regressions take months to cultivate. I'm working on them right now for Starseed 2 with Raphael and the beings that are working with me. And they're very, very powerful activations. So I'm gonna make sure everybody can hear me okay. Something going on. And oh, look at that, 144 participants. Ooh, I love it. Look, everybody. That's great. As you know, we're working with our 144,000 star seeds lighting up the grid. So how magical is that? Okay, so Thursday night's activation, most of you, I assume, fell asleep. And that's okay. It's very, very hard to stay awake during those activations because they are really powerful and they're very heavy vibrations that are impacting you and making a difference that you may only be noticing on very subtle levels. But over time, you'll notice that metamorphic changes are happening in your body, in your emotional and mental state, and in your life as it's expanding into higher frequencies. And you're starting to feel more joy and synchronicity and magic. And we're going to really be tapping into the magic after we finish this classwork in Starseed 2. And because after we clear these lower quadrant energies, we're going to move up into the higher ones. But getting through this cookie stuff is really important. So if you fell asleep during the activation, don't worry about it. That's fine. And you can listen to those activations as many times as you want for me, when I first do them, I'm channeling them, obviously. And so even though I'm kind of getting it, I'm not really getting it. So I go back and listen to them. And every time I listen to even that very first activation where we're aligning the starseed grid, I hear something different that I didn't hear before. So if you can just pop it on if you want before you're going to bed at night, and it can be really low and subtle, and just taking it in vibrationally, that's great. I played it the other day in the car. I don't recommend that. um, I was on the turnpike on my way to the dentist, and I didn't think I was going to keep my eyes open. Not a good idea. I had to turn it off. So I would recommend playing it if you're driving a vehicle, but you certainly can put it on maybe in the kitchen while you're cooking or something if you want to be able to hear the transmission and the information without falling asleep. Okay, I think that's everything. So we're going to tune in to ancient Egypt today. And I know some people are repeating the class and other people are new to the class. So we're working with these 3 different ancient civilizations, which is ancient Egypt, Lemuria, and Atlantis. And each of them carry multiple different layers of energy and vibration and have things to share and gifts. But for this coursework, we've divided it as they have shown me, meaning Thoth and Isis and the other beings, that ancient Egypt, we're going to be really focusing on shame and guilt. And then in Lemuria, we're working a lot with victimhood. And that's a really important class. Well, they're all important, but a lot of times we don't think we're a victim, but you could be really surprised how much that role is still really playing in our reality. And then we're going to work with the ego, which is a big one in Atlantis. And then we'll move into heart-centered energy and continue on to the end where we have a closing ceremony. So I'm going to bring in Raphael today and prepare you basically just to have an overview and do some exercises that then Casey will support you in on Tuesday for Thursday night's activation. The Thursday night activation, like I say, everything we're doing is important, but those activations from an energetic perspective are really important. So make sure if you didn't get to listen on last Thursday nights that you get a chance to do that sometime soon if you can, even tonight before you go to bed. Okay. All right. I guess that's everything. All right, here we go. Does it come to get sick after an activation? Not usually, but if you do, it could be that you're just cleansing and clearing something. Don't get too attached to it. And I'll answer all those kinds of questions after the call today. All right? All righty. Sounds good.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
As always, we are very delighted to be here with all of you and excited to see all the light codes that are floating around you and you're absorbing them as they are moving into the cells and the body of who it is that you are here in this now moment, in this lifetime. And you may be wondering, what are these light codes and why is this so important? Because it is the universal language of life before division and boundaries and a sense of borders between one another, in which you are unified in the remembering of who it is that you are. And as you receive this very, very powerful activation, as Adama came and opened the egg and the light codes were allowed to be displayed as they fell and found their way to who it is that you are, it is that they are activating deep within the being on a deep old ancestral and cellular level, the aspect of knowing and self before you fell into a sleep, in a sense, in which you were fully aware and awakened to the origin of self and connected to the source of all that is. And in doing this, it is a clearing and a cleansing and a washing away of debris. And much of what it is that we are doing in this work together is purifying one's energetic field from denser energies that will no longer be prevalent across your globe. And you are witnessing this occurring as great change is happening on the earth. But we are delving even deeper here in doing this and in opening a doorway. And in this process, this is bringing more literal light into your being and creating a lightness as you are elevating your vibration and moving it into a higher frequency, allowing you to have greater access to wisdom and knowledge and deep teachings and understanding that were always prevalent in the past. For it is that the grid that was activated the other night and before, as we have done this classwork, and as we continue to do it for years to come until it fills 144,000 beings that have given their time and energy and willingness to do this work, for it is fully, completely, absolutely lit and activated. It is that it is something that was alive and active before in the times in which you have lived. And we want to remind you that although right now you're in form in the lifetime you are having, and whatever it is you're experiencing feels so real and so important, and on many levels it is, we want to remind you that it is a blink in time from the vastness of who it is that you are, and the lifetime after lifetime after lifetime in which you have had. And you, as star seeds, in a sense, and whether you identify with this word or not, and the best way for us to begin to explain this is that you were connected to a nation of light, a star system that is a galactic energy that is evolved at a much higher frequency than those that many dwell across the globe. And yet you particularly, as starseed beings, chose to encase yourself in form, to be here on the earth, to go through the cycles of life and death and lifetime over lifetime, receiving the vibration of karmic understanding in order to land into the witnessing moment of the full awakening of what is occurring now, to return back to the place in which you originated from, in which you are a helping hand to those perhaps who are in a deeper and greater sleep. And so it is that as you come and reactivate the starseed grid, we want you to know that this grid was once fully opened and awakened. And for those who lived during the time time of ancient Egypt, and all of you tapped into the timeline of this. And we want to remind you that there is no linear time, for it is holographic in nature and happening continuously and simultaneously, for there is no time and space from the dimension in which we talk from, and yet sometimes hard to wrap one's logical mind or understanding around this. You have all tapped into the timeline before of ancient Egypt and lived in a moment in which the starseed grid, whether in Lemuria or Atlantis, was fully open and activated, which allowed a portal of light to transmission or bring transmissions of deep teaching and understanding from the star systems of higher frequency to you, in which you were able to receive these transmissions and knowledge, and that your connection to it was open and strong. And as you received it, it allowed you to learn and to do things with sound, with energy, with geometry, with building, with technology. You were able to move things with the mind. You were able to create with the thought. You were able to send the body and astral travel to different spots, or perhaps you might even call it bilocate. You were to create food in a quickening state in the nourishment of the body as you were much lighter, and you moved in great harmony with the earth and the elements. You tuned in to the beings and those who have passed and those in higher frequencies as you had connection to them, and there was not the severing after the time of death. And because of this, you were able in that time to build such a great thing as the pyramids in Giza. You were able to look at them and bring them into formation with a great quickening, for it is that you had access to information that perhaps today is cut off because the pineal gland is shut. For during that time, the pineal gland was fully active and open, allowing you to have access and vision beyond the world in which you see of form and matter now. And during that time was the beginning in which there was a great shift in what we call the records that were kept. And for those who are curious of these records, many refer to them as the Akashic records. And there are many different records, including galactic records that are crept across the universal energy. But the Akashic records are records that bring forth the remembering of every word and every sound, every thought, every intent, every action, every lifetime, every breath, and every moment that ever has been, ever shall be, and ever is. And in that, they were beginning to bring forth this recording in the beginning, like the layers across the earth in which you look down into the deepness of the soil and you can measure the age of something as you see the layers of rock. The Akashic records are layers and layers that although in your mind you may perceive them as libraries or scrolls of information that are embedded with the coding of what has been, they are often also holographic in nature and energetic. And they are living, 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 living. And it is important to say living, for they have life and breath, and they are able to record and are records of all that has been. And these records have the ability, like any living thing, to shift and morph and change. And as you take the lower energies that reside within them for the records of things that were based in a low frequency, and you begin to clear them, you begin to dissolve, like cutting the cord of a particular vibration from the storage of its unit, allowing them to lift higher into higher octaves, just as humanity, as they match the frequency of the new human form. And so what it is that you are doing here is that you are clearing, in a sense, these lower vibrations so that they are not held within the records, nor are they collectively imprinted in the vibration of what they are to the new ones that come forward into the earth plane to encase themselves again in form. For the new children that are coming now and that are being born across your globe, come with a deeper understanding and a connection, for the starseed grid is open for them as they are able to hear and feel and see and know in a different way, as their ego is less and their sense of materialism is lighter, as they recognize the pain and the hurt across the globe and humanity and Mother Earth. They come with great wisdom, teaching, love, compassion, understanding, and many gifts. And these gifts are alive and awake. And those of you who are mothers and fathers and grandfathers and grandmothers of these children, we want to remind you to encourage them to allow their gifts to remain open so that you do not mock them or put them down or tell them something is silly. If they are speaking to you of a fantasy or an idea that may sound outlandish, or talking to an imaginary friend, we want to remind you to encourage this in their pretending and imagination, their connection with nurturing themselves and nature, because it is that this and these beings are the ones that will bring forth the deeper connection to the higher realms, allowing the information of a quickening of energy and solutions to come in across the globe to begin to create a great healing across the planet. And so your job as star seeds in this now moment is that you have chosen to be here to be a conductor of cleansing and clearing, of purifying of energy so that you may fully awaken into the lightness of who you are, feeling lighter and giddier with more joy and laughter and ability to tune to synchronicity, energy, light, and magic. And in order to do that, we are supporting you in the quickening of that during this process, during the activations in which we have prepared for you that you shall listen to. For the vibration that comes through those activations is a great cleansing and clearing that happens without effort on your part. And yet, in conjunction to that, you must make effort and strides in your thinking, your thought processes, and your willingness to make change and shift in the way in which you see, feel, and perceive of yourself and others. And so today we talk to you about shame, and we talk to you about guilt. And we want you to know that as we tap into the vibration of ancient Egypt, where the great pyramids reside, where Thoth and Isis and many of the great gods and goddesses were born, in which you were connected into the divine masculine and the feminine in great balance, where there was a great honoring of the feminine and the goddess of fertility and music and art, where there is a remembering of the beauty of the goddess, her ability to attune to nature and bring forth life. In that time and that balance of these energies and the opening of the pineal gland and the willingness to remain open to the star nations as they brought through wisdom and information, you lived with great glory and great beauty and great light, great art and teachings and understanding as you looked to the stars and to the astrology to be a guiding light as you found your way. But in those times, you looked and entered into the dwelling of the pyramid, knowing that it was a formation of a harmonic light that transmitted information and allowed you to receive codes of light. But you see, now that much time has passed from that moment in which you have lived, you have now become the pyramid yourself. You are the pyramid of light. You are the pyramid of the harmonic structure, and you are personally receiving the codes as you are moving from a carbon-based structure to a crystalline one. And as this happens, you will not need the structure of the pyramid or the structure of anything any longer, for form will begin to dissolve as you remember that all things in which you look to seek outside of self are dwelling within the temple of who you are and are who you are. And from that, that is what is occurring and happening during the activation as we are awakening the cells and opening the heart and lightening the energy so that you may begin to receive higher actives of information and knowledge and teachings. And so in ancient Egypt was the first time across the globe here on earth in a civilization where the energy and the vibration of shame and guilt began to form in enough numbers that it rippled through the consciousness and began to find itself in the Akashic records, causing a layer there of an energy that perpetuated itself throughout time. And you see, the beginning may have originated from that, from the golden thread of the beginning of time. And yet, before that, in Lemuria and Atlantis, there were moments of shame and guilt, but never was there enough accumulation of it to be active enough to begin to create a rippling effect across the collective until that moment. And then it began to perpetuate itself. For once shame and guilt is born, you see, it wraps itself around your cells and your organs and your tissues. It embeds itself within your being and within the consciousness as a whole. And when you are born into the collective, it does not take long for you to form the understanding of this, to embody it and to take it on. For it begins in the most innocent of ways, in the most subtle of ways, in which you may be asking or looking to your life and wondering, I do not carry shame, or I do not carry guilt. But you see, it comes in ways in which sometimes are deeply embedded within the unconscious mind and subconscious, in which you are not paying much attention. The simple doing something in the overhearing of a parent saying that you are not good at something, or good at something and something that you are not. Perhaps they might say, oh, that one cannot play a note or sing a tone for their life, or they are not good at art, or their hands cannot hold things for they are rough, or they are unable to sync with something, or whatever it may be. They are not good at math or reading. You may overhear something of a comparing you to another who walked earlier or crawled faster, in the very innocence of a play group with the children playing together. Or even in utero, you may be one who kicked less and not as fast as others. I do not know why my baby is not kicking when the other friends who are at the same date in pregnancy are feeling theirs. And so quickly there is this sense of judgment that can be put upon in the energetic field in the most subtlest of ways. And when you are born into the collective consciousness, this sense of comparison begins. And the comparison begins, and the shame and the guilt is born. And it can be in easy and simple things as you look to your life as a child. Simply that perhaps those moments in time in gym where they pick ones to be on a team and you're the last one standing because you're not athletic, the shame that is felt in that, or that you receive the paper, the grade, it is passed out or called out and your letter may have been low. Or it could be that you spilled your food upon you during the time of lunch and everyone was to laugh. It could be that you forgot that you had something on your back and everyone made fun of you. It can be the simplest of things. And yet guilt can be born also in the most simplest of way, in which you wanted something in which another had and you took it from them. And yet you felt the guiltiness in stealing something simple like a cookie, or perhaps a coloring book, taking it from a place that you were. For it does not have to be something heavy and hard, and yet the heavy and hardness of great shame and guilt also resides in many of you as you have acted in ways in which you are shameful for, and others have acted and been a perpetrator toward you as you were the victim of great shame of something in which you endured. And these energies and vibrations, as we were saying, get caught. And they get caught in the cells and in the tissues and the organs, and they can weigh you down and cause disease and heaviness, mental confusion, fogginess, depression, anxiety, heaviness, all of these things. And so what we are wanting to do today is to bring awareness to that, because you see that shame and guilt cannot live in a place where there is self-love. And so it is that we want to go back to the origin point, the point of where it all began. And although you will think that perhaps you cannot trace back all shame and guilt back to a time of ancient Egypt, for you can go from lifetime beyond lifetime of great wars, of great suffering and pain, of a time in which others were seen as greater or less than. You could look to perhaps the times of the Spanish War or the Holocaust. You can look at times in which you were brutally violent and raped one another, where all of these energies have accumulated over your history to create this heaviness, this vibration that perpetuates a sense of separateness, a sense of this is mine and that is yours. I am right and you are wrong, a sense that you are separate and unlovable. And it is that one of the places that it originated, and we are wanting to bring you there, and we shall in many days when you do your activation for Egypt, is that you began to the first origin or point of a comparison in which you thought that there was something that you could give or do to buy in order to make yourself greater. And you see this today in your collective society. If I buy a bigger house or I have a better car, if I have beautiful clothes or whatever it may be, I perhaps can elevate myself to think I am more important, I am greater, I am the one to be looked at on a pedestal in comparison to the low peasant below me, for I am the great one. And although you do not do this consciously with your ego, the ego quickly gets in the way in a sense that you look around and on an unconscious level, you see and make yourself feeling better that I am better than them or have more than them in the comparison of greater or less than. And that is the birth of shame and guilt. And so down type in the ancient Egyptian culture, there was a ritual that played itself out with the great high priest and high priestess. And that was that at the time of death, they would open you up and they would take your heart out. When they took your heart out, they would take it to the great God and they would weigh it. And if the heart was light, and this is where your expression, a heart, light of heart came, you were looked upon as a great sage, as an enlightened one, as one with a great and high consciousness, for your heart was light, because you did not carry the heaviness of heavy vibrations, but were able to transcend them. But when they lifted your heart out and it was heavy, and the scales fell to the floor, you were looked down upon as less than, unable to transmute heavy energies, not enlightened and filled with shame and guilt. And beyond that, it became the comparison that you were judged at the time of death rather than seen as a divine being. And there was even a moment in when you thought, or someone had the idea, that you started to think, is there a way that I can get past this? Is there something that I can do so that others will think that I am light of heart or enlightened? And the idea, the thought of bribery came into form. Perhaps if I give some gold to the high priestess to change the weight and to say that my heart is light at the time of death, I will be honored and revered and able to go to the heavens with the gods. And so it is that the great high priestess, with a sense of hesitation at first, and then a wondering, all of this golden accumulation, how it would benefit them, said, okay, I will take your gold and I shall lie and I shall say that you are light of heart, even if your heart weighs heavy. And can you imagine the guilt of the high priestess that they carry for knowing the tricksting of what was occurring in the sense of it being out of integrity? And can you imagine the shame of the one that paid the gold in order to do that? And the beginning of shame and guilt was born. And yet it was born in the idea of this along the way, but this began to happen in droves, in enough numbers, with enough beings that it started to perpetuate the idea that if you wanted to be greater or less than another, to be seen or compared as something other than who you are and the equality of self, that you could pay to be looked at differently, to be in a hierarchy, to be richer or to be poorer, to have more gold, more glistening, more ideas that make you more important. How many times do you look to someone who is famous and think they are more important than you, or you would perhaps talk to them differently, treat them differently, give them more, give them more. If they were coming to dinner, would perhaps you clean your house and make the food differently than the old neighbor and the lady next door who has come a million times, in the forgetting that they are no different, nor should they have any grander treatment, for the equality of the humanness and the dedication to what you do and how you perform should be with equality. And so this idea that others were better and less than others started to form. And it is, you see, out of that, that the sense of feeling unlovable began, the sense of unworthiness, because if you were in comparing oneself all the time to another, of course you would begin to find your flaws and criticism and judgment of self. And it is in the unworthiness that the shame comes. For you see, one who feels unlovable, unworthy, and less than is the one that will perform something that they feel guilty about, that they do to inflict upon another. And the same for those receiving that affliction, who are feeling of great shame, receive it because they are not strong and powerful in alignment with the vibration of standing in their truth, for then they feel less than, victimized and hurt. And so the perpetual energy of these vibrations of shame and guilt continue to plague across time through the golden thread of the timeline that ravels all the way to where you are. And in addition to this great thing that occurred in ancient Egypt and the witnessing of it with the gods and goddesses, there was this great birth of slavery. And when you look to the idea of slavery and you see that it happened across time and across your planet, in country after country and nation after nation, but you look to the time of its origin, it was to say that somehow I am greater than you because I have somehow decided that my life is more valuable than you, and that you will work for me in the way in which you will not be honored, in which I will own you. And the owning of another cannot create more shame within the vibrational frequency of them than anything else, perhaps. The sense that you are not free in any way, that you are owned somehow, that you are so less than, that you are to be worked to the bone until you bleed. And it is that the one who is your master, the one that whips you and lays in the sun, with great fruits and plates being served to them in the name of something being built by the slaves, the guilt on a vibrational level, whether they're conscious or not, because their ego is so grand, they carry the vibration of guilt. And so that whole sense of owning another, being greater or less than or more important, and the division between each other is what has created the shame and guilt. And it is that as it was built and born across ancient Egypt, it began to expand as time evolved and became greater and grander into wars that you had, that I own this and you own that, and my religion is greater than your religion. My skin is more beautiful than your skin. My language and my culture, my food is more important than yours. And it is the comparison of division became so great that the shame and guilt became commonplace, in which you did not know what it would be like to be born into the earth's atmosphere, to the collective consciousness, for you knew as you entered it was part of the game, that shame and guilt was something in which you would hold, and that was embedded in your being, that was carried through the golden thread from the birth of the time in which it originated and spiraled through lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And so many of you may be having flashbacks, glimpses, awakenings, knowledge, tuning in to those times in which you were taken, not at your will, and put in a camp, in which you were seen as less than, or in a refugee camp, and you were put aside and looked down upon as the peasants, as the grand landowners sat on their porch and drank their tea, as you sat out deep in the fields plowing the wheat and pulling the cotton, whatever it may be. And you see, this energetic ancestral energy has accumulated in the Akashic records, and Thoth comes to now in a pleading that it is time to release it. And that is why we have prepared so diligently with so much energy and effort the vibrational activations that you will receive in a few days, and the one that you received a few days past, because although you may not be able to keep your eyes open, you see we are working on a cellular level as we are releasing and cutting the threads to these old ways, and opening the doors and activating the light codes and the DNA that reconnects you through the starseed grid to the star nations of the beings that are vibrating at a frequency where they do not carry the encoding of these lower vibrations within them. And as you can attune to them, you begin to dissolve them. And as you are dissolving these frequencies, this is what's happening right now on your planet. And so they have to surface because you were so accustomed to them for so long that you walked through life in what you thought was a beautiful and more peaceful and gentle world. But yet it was one with deep suppression of so much hidden beneath the surface that was so deep in the cells and embedded within you that you walked in a sense of an amnesia, because the pineal gland was so shut you could not see anything beyond that. But as it begins to open now and reawaken to the place in which it was, it opens your eyes to see things in a new way, to question things you haven't questioned before, to wonder, to look, to ask, to feel, and to know. And as that happens, you cannot withstand when you see this aggression toward a people, or this slavery toward another, or this sense of greater or less than, or this division that I am right and you are wrong. All of this must be healed. And so a great healing is happening because the wound is open and now it needs to be healed, because you can see it. Before, the wound was there, but you were blinded to it. And so we want you to feel encouraged by this. We want you to know that this is something magnificent because you are healing. And we are helping all of you in this healing. And as you heal, you are reverberating out the vibration of the release of that shame and guilt that moves and is healed within you as it interconnects through the web of the grid and into the light beings across the globe. And so as you move into the Akashic records in a few nights, you will tune in to Thoth, and Thoth will come. And when he comes, he stands tall with his green tablets and his records as he brings you into the hall of Amente. And he opens the door and allows you to go and to find the scroll of the lifetimes of where you were and how you perpetuated shame and guilt and where it resides in you. As you open it and read it, you may fall to the ground feeling great shame or feeling great guilt. And we say, do not feel sad or hurt by this, but know that the scroll is open now. The hiding no longer has to happen. The shame can only be there if you are afraid to see it. You see, the ones that are ashamed are the ones that hide. The one that does not want to wear their suit out to the pool. They are afraid what others will judge their body, and they hide in the corner. They do not want to go out, for they may be looked down upon. That is the shame that must be cleared now. And so there is no hiding anymore from your shame or guilt or that is perpetuated. It is time to open the doors, open the scroll, to see it and to allow it to come out and to embody it. And you see, how do you heal it? You wonder, how does it get cleared? You do not want to feel the heaviness of it. And as you bring it to the surface, will that bring heaviness within you? And so we say to you, how it is that you heal it is that you love yourself. And we do not mean that just talking of I love myself. We mean the real, actual, I love you, truly loving yourself, every aspect of yourself. Where you see, we're going to ask you now to look in the mirror every day between now and your activation on Thursday. for as long as you can stand it. And we want you to look in the mirror in the morning and at night. And we want you to take your clothes off so that you are in the naked wind, the way that you came to this world, born as a newborn baby. There is nothing to be ashamed of the body. And whether it is filled with pimples and rolls of fat and wrinkles, whether it has hairs growing in funny places or whatever it may be, we want you to look at it. We want you to look at your body. We want you to accept your body. We want you to look into the mirror and open your eyes and see the beauty of your soul. And as you look in the mirror, we want you to say in this naked, open, vulnerable way, I love you. I accept you. You are magnificent and beautiful. I love you. Over and over and over. And as you're looking, if you cannot look, if you shy away, if it is too much to bear, that is the measuring stick for the amount of shame and guilt that you are carrying. And we ask you to have courage and to call upon the great ancient and Egyptian gods, that of Sekhmet, who bring courage to you. We ask you to call upon Thoth and Isis to stand by your side and to be there as they hold the mirror up for you and to look again and to keep saying it and saying it. It might be easy. You may have already cleared so much that you can stand there in an abandoned, open way, looking over and over and saying it. Or are you just kidding yourself? Are you saying it from the depth of your being and the heart of who you are? Say it with truth and authenticity. And if you cannot look, try, push through, force yourself, keep doing it over and over and over. And the healing that will come for this will be momentous. It may sound easy and simple, nothing big to do, but yet it is the repetitive doing of it every day, over and over at morning and night, as long as you can stand in the depth of your eyes, nurturing yourself like the Divine Mother would love you and embrace you with complete and absolute unconditional love. You say to yourself again and again and again, I love you. I see you. I honor you. Over and over, and tears may come and allow them to flow. Joy and laughter may arise. Allow it to be. A sense of anger may present itself. Allow that to be. Whatever emotion comes, allow it to be. Allow it to have its life. Do not hinder it, suppress it, or push it away. Do not turn your head from the mirror and turn your back to it, but turn back in courage and stand again. Force yourself over and over. I love you. I love you. I love you. For you see, you do this for yourself. You do this to go into the cells and the tissues and to unravel and untangle and unwrap any shame and guilt that has accumulated from the time of birth to the age where you are now, all the way back to all the lifetimes that you have had, going back and back and back all the way to ancient Egypt, to the time in which perhaps you were the high priestess taking the gold, or you won the one bribing the high priestess, or you were the slave owner, or you were the slave. And as you open the scroll in the Akashic records, it'll become clear what you were, and there is no judgment, and it does not matter. For every single role that has ever been played, from the murderer to the one murdered, to the rapist to the one raped, those are the most difficult ones you can possibly imagine. The pillaging of a village, of great war and despair, of poverty and hungry, all of those lifetimes, all of those moments in which you were the one in the shackles and the one with the whip, you have played each one. And you may say, but I would never do such a thing, for that is not me. I am filled with light. But you see, in this lifetime, you may not, but there have been an evolution of lifetimes you have lived, because every single act that has played itself out, and every single word that has been spoken and thought that has been held, and energy that has been felt, has rippled through you on some level and is a part of who you are, because everything you look at is a mirrored reflection of self for you, and everything is you. And so as you clear this with the willingness to love who you are, it's like cleaning and purifying and wiping away and dissolving a heavy debris that is casted across the physicality and the emotional and mental aspect of all the vibrational fields of the body. And so this is what you're doing, and it might seem intense or heavy, but you see on the other side of it is a lightness, a sweetness, an openness, a synchronicity, a feeling in which the gap opens and the light that pours down that you have embedded in the starseed grid widens, and the access that you begin to have to the higher realms is stronger, and your ability to feel energy is more palpable. Your ability to quickly create through your thought and intent quickens. Your sense of knowing and discerning becomes clearer. All the things in which perhaps get in the way are much easier and lighter because the pathway has been opened and cleared because you can see again. And so that is your work to do. It is to stand now, perhaps after our talking, and stand in the mirror, unabashedly saying, I love you, and again before bed and again in the morning. Perhaps you can take a picture of yourself or saying it out loud. You can share it with us or others. You can do it with unabashed sense of no sense of embarrassment. There is no shame in this. There is no guilt. There is only the willingness to be free. And it is that in doing that, then the great Thoth will come and the great Isis, as the shackles of fear and guilt and shame will be removed from your ankles, and the heavy iron robe will be lifted from your shoulders, as you will feel lighter. And the Akashic records of the heaviness will be erased, and the rippling fact of the retraction of shame and guilt will go back through the origin of the golden thread as it spirals back to the origin of its point. So the new beings coming into this soup of collective thinking, this way of the world, will not be embedded, will not be absorbing this vibration, because it is the new children that will be born, and some of you will be them. For some of you will leave your bodies in this lifetime shortly. Others will live for a very long time, but some of you who will choose to exit, you will come back, and you will be that star seed again, but you will enter into a new consciousness that is lighter and more beautiful, because you see you have helped to create it. And you will be that starseed child. You will be that crystalline, what you might call rainbow crystal child, born with the big, beautiful eyes, with the deep connection to spirit, here to heal the earth. For you see, do not despair that the earth will fall, for it will not, for it is strong. In you as a humanity, we have great faith, with the willingness to do the work, and the support from the higher realms, that you will clear this density and reawaken to your gifts and the opening of what can be. And in the blink of an eye, a change will happen. All the things that seem unsolvable will have solutions, because you will be tuned in, just like you were to build the Great Pyramids. You did not build them from your own thinking. From the star nations came and told you what to do. The technology was given to you, and it will be given to you again to solve the problems that seem unsolvable, in a willingness to raise your vibration, to hear the call, to know what they are saying, to feel it, to act upon it, and to create it. So go, my dear children, go now and love yourself. Say, I am lovable, over and over and over. Feel the love for who you are. Look into your eyes, for they truly are the seat of the soul. Look into the iris. Perhaps it'll bring you back to a time in which you were a little boy or a little girl. A moment of shame, a thought, a memory may arise. And just love that little boy or little girl. Love what it was that happened, without judgment, without thinking. You don't have to rehash it. And whatever emotion arises, allow it to be, and love that. I want you to love everything about yourself, whatever feeling you have, however you look, whatever is occurring in your mind, love it all. Keep loving it and loving it until you feel so loved and so lovable that you are just smiling and gleaming from ear to ear, looking in the mirror with great laughter and joy, repeating, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And with that, we will take you deep into a regression, down into the depths of the pyramid in the hot desert sun, to open the scroll and to release the shackles of pain, as the great Isis will come and wash forgiveness over you. This will be a very powerful and important activation and clearing of these vibrations. But you are being asked at this time, prior to that, to do your part, which is to actually take it into account, the consideration to do your homework, which is to love yourself. So with that, I send to you many blessings, much love. I love you, and good day. Yeah. All right. Well, there it is. That was quite a powerful transmission. So thank you all so much for joining today's Saturday call. I'm going to stay on and answer questions. I think I need to figure out how to unmute all of
I
you.
got it. I'll unmute them. Hold on.
Casey will do that. And for those of you who are ready, don't have any questions or don't want to stay on, have a beautiful Saturday. And Casey will see you Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. and Monday morning, 8:30 a.m. That's all New York time. All right. So I am here and ready to help you out. What do you guys want to chit chat about?
Kelly, I had a question. Thank you to you and Raphael. I understand that we have these, as Raphael said, that hologram thought forms of shame, guilt, and judgment, that we have to look at it and give it love in order to let it go. But my question is that, how does fear come into this? Because I do have fear of unknown for the future, this immediate future. For my children, financial and all of those things. Does this fear also come into this, or is that something else? Is that not having that connection to understand that it's all in a unit and it's not a control per person type of thing? I don't know if I'm clarifying you well.
Yeah, I mean, fear always comes from projecting into the future. Almost always, if you're able to drop right here in this minute, you're not afraid right now of anything. So the best way to, transmute fear is to really, really practice being present. And I know that's like a simple answer, but it's not easy. And just keep coming back to the presence of now. And right now, are you okay?
I see.
And
yes.
Are you okay right now?
Yes.
Yeah. And if you do it breath by breath, And you keep, you write that all around the house. In this now moment, am I okay? Yeah. And, we keep practicing that. Then the fear has nothing to latch onto. The fear only can show up if we're worrying about what happened, or mostly if we're afraid of what will happen. But as you release the shame and the guilt, that is such a very low vibration. It's down there with fear. It will help you with the fear as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. If I may ask another question, based on that hologram concept of thought form, that, it's that, I don't want to use negative, but thought forms that are not service to us at this time, that we have to let go, as that shame and guilt and judgment. How do we connect to hologram thought forms of our past experiences, maybe not in this life, other lives that are instrumental for us at this time, that can help us in some way? I'm sure we've all done a lot of different things that
Yeah.
are
Well, we
very
do.
impactful.
Yeah, well, in both in ancient Egypt, Lemuria, and Atlantis, we lived these incredibly beautiful and powerful lives where many of our gifts were fully activated. So we will go, that does show up in our classwork and our teachings, and you can tune into that. And that's the next phase that we do in Starseed 2. It's a lot lighter, but we have to clear this other stuff first. And then we tap into the lifetimes where we had the gifts and we were fully actualized, and we harness that energy. But we can't bypass clearing the lower vibrations and going right into that. Otherwise, it's called a spiritual bypass, and we're not actually doing the work.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else?
Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
I'm having a lot of feelings of jealousy come up recently. And I was just wondering if this fit in with shame and guilt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because jealousy is about comparing, right?
Yes.
And when we're comparing, there's always, jealousy shows up when we're not feeling worthy.
Right.
Yeah. So the work in loving yourself also has to align with stepping in your power. Jealousy is often when we're not in our power, when we're giving our power away to somebody else, that they're more important than us.
Right.
Yeah. So doing the simple I love you exercises and really honoring and loving yourself, and then maybe doing some free journaling, just to see if there's some journaling that you can do where you have no intention around it. You just get out paper, and you just don't think at all what word they're going to come, and just let it. And like sometimes you'll get stuck and you'll just say the word so for a little bit until another word, and do it 20 minutes a day for the week. And you'll be surprised what might show up in there, and it might be a nugget of where the origin of the jealousy is coming from, because usually we think it's somebody else's behavior, but it always stems back to either an abandonment issue, feeling rejected or unworthy as a kid, and whoever you're jealous of, they're triggering that in you. And when you can find the nugget of where the unworthiness stems from and bring compassion to it, a lot of times it will diffuse it.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Sure. Anybody else?
Kelly, can I ask another question? Sorry.
Well,
What
let's
if-
just let
Okay.
me make sure there isn't somebody else first, and then you can, of course. Is there anybody else who wanted to ask a question? Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
I don't know, can you hear me well?
What?
I'm not sure, can you hear me well?
There's something breaking up. I couldn't hear you. Could you say it again?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. My question was mostly related with our connection as a group of people. Like it's mentioned that we're connected as a soul family right now, and I can definitely feel that during the calls. But is there like something deeper that comes up, something in the connection? I don't know. Something about being cautious. I don't even know. There are so many things coming up, to be honest, and so much connection in all this that I'm just wondering, should we take like even more care because of the others? I'm like question marks in this. I just felt like mention that.
Okay, it was breaking up a little, but I think you're concerned about connecting as a family to all these people, and are you picking up on other people's stuff? And so we made a really clear intention in the beginning that we're only connecting to our soul level. So we're not connecting to the human drama, the human fear, the human suffering, emotional pain, all of that. We're connecting to the starseed part, which is a very clear, high vibrational aspect of our higher self. So when we're connecting in the starseed grid, we're connecting to the starseed part of ourself, not the personality, the ego, and the human part. So there's nothing you have to fear about that.
All right, that's great.
Okay. And I didn't mean to cut the other person off who wanted to ask another question. Please feel free to go ahead. I just want to make sure everybody has a chance. So if you wanted to ask that, go ahead, or somebody else.
I just wanted to ask you, what is the significance of number 144, since you just brought it up in the beginning?
You know, it's crazy. So 144, I know, like if you read about it, there's like biblical stuff about it, which is not where it's coming from me, but Raphael keeps talking about it. So I don't know. I think it's something vibrational about that number, that when we hit a certain mass in the consciousness vibrating at a certain frequency at that number, that it'll start to have a real impact. And to be totally honest, I can't give you more of an explanation than that, other than you can like Google and read about it. And some stuff is like weird about it, and other stuff is sort of like different biblical things. But Raphael just says, like, when you hit that certain amount of people, it's something to do with 12 times 12 energetically, that you're hitting enough mass that consciousness impacts the collective. It's the best I can explain it, but it keeps showing up. Like that number 144 is everywhere for me all the time. I don't know if anybody else is feeling that or seeing it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, Kelly. I would like to ask a question.
Yes.
So, I'm having trouble with feeling worthy, and I had this my whole life. So I did a lot of affirmations and visualization work, and also this standing in front of a mirror and working with myself. So I feel that I'm having a little bit of a doubt that this time it will be different. Do you know
So
what I mean?
are you going to be on the call on Tuesday?
Of course.
Okay, so why don't you get on that and tell us, how everyone on the call, how worthy you are.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
So really
Thanks.
feel into it between now and Tuesday morning, and we'll have you get on and like, let's really break through this.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, hi Kelly, I have a question.
Yes.
I want to ask, like, how can we overcome our patterns?
How what?
How can we overcome our patterns?
How can we overcome our patterns? Well, that'd probably be a whole channeling session with Raphael. Yeah, I mean, conscious awareness would be the first thing. So writing down and being aware of your patterns, and then noticing them as you're repeating them. That's the first thing, and bringing compassion to them. And then you can start to go in and do some of the IFS work. I know Casey went over that in the class, but IFS work will help you get to the root of a pattern, because usually a pattern that you're not happy with is usually something that you're doing to cover up or protect yourself from feeling something you don't want to feel. And that means you have a protected part of self, and that's why the IFS works in the body, that's protecting you from feeling something you're not wanting to feel. And so when you're protecting yourself from feeling something you don't want to feel, you'll do something to keep yourself busy, which usually is a pattern that's repetitive that you don't like drinking or overeating or shopping or being controlling or manipulative, or there's endless patterns that we have, right? That are our mechanisms to keep ourselves safe from feeling what we don't want to feel. So the IFS work is what I recommend to help with that. So first, bring awareness to the pattern. Conscious awareness of anything is the first step. And then kind of, scan the body and tune in and see if you can feel where you're holding that in the body. And once you tune into where it is in the body, ask itself if you can talk to it, if it has something it wants to say, why it keeps showing up, and start to have a dialogue with the pattern itself. But, that's a much deeper process than we can probably answer in a quick Q&A. But those are some steps to start with, at least.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
Hi. My question is, I'm still new to all this, but for this ascension that we're doing, does that mean like the physical death of this physical body?
No. So there's confusion about that, right? So ascension is a confusing word, and it can have a lot of different connotations, but ascension is basically ascending to a higher frequency. And then that higher frequency that you're holding matches and mirrors back that higher frequency, and your reality begins to shift, meaning you're in a more of an ascended state. Doesn't mean that your body is dying. It doesn't mean that you're leaving people behind, any of that. It just means you're vibrating at a higher frequency. I mean, and that doesn't also mean that things aren't going to happen in your life, that, your house isn't going to flood, or your boyfriend's not going to break up with you. It doesn't mean you're just not going to have problems necessarily, but your perception and your reaction and your way of handling them is from a much higher frequency. So you perceive them they're happening for a reason, not to you, but for you. And you're able to move through them with much more ease and see them from a broader perspective. So ascension is basically vibrating at the frequency of love or above for long periods of time without dropping into those lower vibrations.
Okay. And this work we're doing is to help the collective as well to get there?
Yes. So because we're all connected, energetically, as we clear things in ourselves, it helps the collective. And the planet's going through this huge shift. And so anything that we can do to help bring more light and levity and higher frequency to the planet, the less heaviness and difficulty we're going to have to go through in order to get to the other side.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
I was just curious of how many star seeds are there so far?
We had 700 star seeds in our first class. And I think this class we have maybe 300. So I think we might be up to 1,000. And Casey was saying to me last night, he said, Mom, it would be fun if you had, like, as we do the classes, and I don't know if I'll keep doing them live or if I'll just have the recordings for people. If we had like a ticker number, your number, whatever, in the 144,000, that could be kind of fun. So we're just at the very beginning.
Nice. Just another question. I have a my grandson is 8 months old, and sometimes I have him with me. Is it okay if I keep him with me while I'm like listening to the Thursday night? You know,
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. No
he
problem.
he benefits from. So, you know, he's
Oh yeah, he's already there, but
Okay.
his energy may help benefit you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
You go ahead.
No, go ahead.
There could be starseeds that aren't taking this class too, right? I mean, there's other.
Oh my God, of course.
Of course.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So-
No. It just meant people building, like consciously making the starseed grid we're doing in this class. But of course, I mean, there are millions of starseeds across the globe. Yeah.
Okay. And also interesting, the very first call, there were 144 participants.
That's so funny. Yeah. No, it's definitely something going on with that for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
You're
Hey,
welcome.
Sorry. Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
Hi. Just a quick question regarding what Raphael was talking about next session on Thursday, when we will go to the amenity hall with thoughts and then open the scroll and see what something about our past lives and stuff.
Mhm.
I just have some issues. So when I close my eyes during meditation and stuff, I don't see anything. You think that's gonna be a problem for me, or do you have any advice for me to prepare for next Thursday?
Yeah, it's okay. I know some people don't see things and aren't good with the visualization part, and that's okay. You might just like hear a message, or it may just be blank, and that's okay too. Just trust that you're doing the process on an energetic level anyway. In the beginning of the class, I did send out something like to practice visualization, like practicing dolphins and the Egyptian pyramids, Lemurian crystals, things we're working with. So you can practice a little bit, but also don't feel shame or guilty that you can't do it. Like, it's totally okay. Everything about this class is that there's no expectation, and that wherever you are is perfect. Nobody is doing better or less than anyone else in the class. And however you process the activation, which might mean just completely falling asleep, that's totally fine. You're getting the activation whether you can visualize or not.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, anybody else?
Hi, Kelly.
Hello.
I was wondering, does it matter on your physical body if you've had like breast implants or plastic surgery?
No, it doesn't matter at all. We're working way beyond the physical body here. No worries.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, any other last questions?
Hi, Kelly. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi. I have found this so fascinating, and I feel like a kindergartner learning things at lightning speed, and I got so much out of today. And what I'm trying to, and Raphael's mentioned it a few times, and you may or may not be able to elaborate, but the timelines of how the past, the present, the future, and everything is going on simultaneously. Is that because we are multidimensional and that we are living in those timelines simultaneously? Or could you maybe just give us just a general idea?
Yeah, it is very hard to grasp, right, with our linear brain, how that works. But yeah, we're holographic, we're living in a hologram, and we're tuned in right to this pinpoint of this moment right now. But there are aspects and part of ourselves that are like pinned into other timelines that are happening simultaneously. So how it actually works, like in my surfing the tsunami class, we really study the dimensions and what each dimension is doing and how we're all working in this in geometry and sacred geometry and how it all clicks and connects. But I don't fully get it myself, other than Raphael always says that. I don't think it's so much that it's that we can tap into those moments and fully step back into those lifetimes, because there's an aspect of our frequency that's still resonating with that lifetime, not as much as that lifetime is fully open and active at the moment, but that the frequency of it, just like when you die, a lot of times people will be able to really tap into loved ones, their frequencies remaining still present. It's still holding its pattern, and you can communicate with it, even if an aspect of the soul has moved beyond that, beyond the personality, beyond this lifetime, and is even in another lifetime. You can still tap into the frequency of them from the lifetime you were connected to them in, and they're still holding that pattern of that personality in that lifetime. And at the same time, they may be experiencing something completely different. So I guess that's the best way I can explain it.
Oh, that helps a lot, and just putting the puzzle pieces together. And my sister introduced me to you, and she's on these calls today, and she's going through something that is just amazing, and I'm honored to share it with her, and it's just beautiful. I'm just getting so much out of it.
Oh, I'm so grateful. Thank you. I'm so glad.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kelly, can I ask you a question?
Yes, of course.
I was just wondering, during the activation, I noticed I felt a bit fearful. Just anticipating or something. And I was wondering, would that be of influence in terms of what I would get out of it?
I don't think so. It's probably just coming up to be cleared. You know, the beings that we're working with are so gentle and loving and sweet that, you know, they're moving way beyond any of our personality and personal fears, and they're doing the work for us. But we're participating in that, we're choosing to do it, and we're asking for them to help us. But a lot of it's happening way beyond our thought process. So I just, be gentle with yourself. And as the fear comes up, just acknowledge it. Don't push it down. And maybe do some journaling around it. Get curious. And, just to be present with it.
Yeah, okay. I hear you. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any last question before we call it a day?
Oh, I have a quick question.
Yeah, sure.
I know we're doing a lot of clearing and working with guilt and shame and energy stuff. I was just wondering if you had any advice. I've done this class before, but when we find ourselves in a situation where we're with that one person or people that kind of trigger us, I know you mentioned vax and patterns and stuff were being discussed. If you have any advice, because sometimes it feels like all this work I've done in this class is sometimes it goes down the tubes when I kind of lose my balance, and I feel like sometimes I lose it all, the high vibration when I go back into that old pattern or way of being.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've ever.
We all do that. I do
Yeah.
that too. I'll be cooking breakfast with my husband and he'll trigger me that I have the stove on too long or something, and I'll scream at him and I'll be like, oh my goodness. So, we're all human and we're all going to fall back into our old patterns, and relationships are our greatest and biggest test. Did you happen to email me today?
No, that wasn't me. No.
Okay, because somebody emailed me. I hadn't had a chance to get back to them about something similar. Boundaries is also super important right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if I were channeling, I could answer this better for you, but as I tune in, I definitely feel like you really need to work on boundaries.
So true. I thought, okay, still more work. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, that would be the area, especially around somebody who perhaps is pushing your buttons, but doesn't really have the right to be so in your space.
The power I give to that, maybe. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sure. All right.
Hi, Kelly.
Hello.
Hi. I have a question relating to a past life. This is just so different for me, but for the last 4 years, I've been intensely clearing a past life where I had a very violent death. And as Tricia was asking about timelines, I've been actually able to, in almost a 2-chair type therapy, connect with myself from that past life. And this is all leading to something else. But again, you know, the timeline question, and I've wondered if there's still a part of me living through that death.
It's possible. It's possible, especially if a part of you isn't totally willing yet to let it go.
I believe I have. Yeah.
If you have fully let it go, then you're not reliving it at the moment.
Okay.
And even though you believe you have, I would go back. I know Casey did mention the Sedona method on Tuesday. I would really tune into that image of that violent death and do that simple process and just take maybe 30 minutes to do it. Can I let this go? Will I let this go? And when will I let this go? And I think you, from tuning in, what I'm getting is you've done a lot of work, and it was a really horrible, violent death, and it's had an impact and rippled through into this lifetime with ramifications, but that you're ready to totally, completely sever it now. And you don't even have to talk about it anymore, or even like you've acknowledged it and worked on it. And then once you make that final letting go, you will really let it, like, not even have to share it anymore.
Okay. I'm also seem to be going through, well, I know I am feeling the symptoms from that death. And I was told that when a huge traumatic thing like that happens and you don't have the life after that to clear it, like you're not still alive, that it is born again in your body the next time. I've had so many things with my body over the last 50 years that I didn't know until now have come from that. And I guess I'm wanting to know somehow when that's going to end. You know,
when you fully let it go.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, because if you start really associating your body issues with that, it keeps it alive.
Okay.
And, you know, it's important to do past life work and to get the information, and it's useful. But you also want to make sure you don't attach in your mind that the physical issues you're having, like, you know, it may be related to that, but it's important to sever it.
Okay.
And then not to give it so much attention. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I've dealt with a lot of physical issues in my lifetime, a lot. And so I have complete empathy and sympathy for you. And and I'm sure it's carried through from all kinds of stuff. But it's all energetic and emotional, and so much of it is about letting go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hi, Kelly.
Hello.
I have a question about the activation that we had the other day. How safe it is to linger in those realms or in that frequency. After the activation, that we were guided back to our body. And as I continued laying in bed, I naturally just went back to that beautiful frequency or to tell us. And I was there for like a while, maybe about an hour or so, and I was singing. I was just really enjoying that frequency. And after a while, I was kind of afraid of like, will I go crazy if I stay here for a long time? Or like that detachment from the physical form that like I could have forced myself back, but naturally I was just like happy there. And
no, it's fine.
Like, my human, like that detachment from. So it's just like, it felt really nice and really beautiful to be there. But part of me was afraid. It's like, maybe I shouldn't linger here for too long because I don't know.
No, it's totally fine. The longer you can be bathed in that high vibration of light and love, the better. There's no, you're not going to like lose touch with your physical world. Don't worry. No worries there. It's a very light, and all the work we're doing is with very light and sweet energies, and you can sit in it and enjoy it.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Kelly.
Yeah, hi.
Hi. So I have a question that kind of spurs off of the previous question about the relationship that is constantly triggering you. So I took this first Starseed class, and I'm still in the same relationship that seems to always be triggering the guilt, the shame, all of the things that we've been clearing out. And now I'm at the point where I just want to have like clarification if it is like spiritual bypassing, if I just want to remove myself from the relationship and focus solely on, clearing these out within me, and then try to mend the relationship, because there are children involved in this relationship, and it's just an ongoing process.
Yeah, it sounds really painful. I'm really sorry. I can't answer what you should do with your relationship, of course, but it's not spiritual bypassing if you need to take space from a relationship. Sometimes that's the most spiritual and courageous thing you can do, because it gives yourself some time to heal. It's like if you have this big open wound and you keep poking it over and over and over, it's never going to heal. But maybe if you heal it up and then you come back to where somebody tries to poke it, if it's not so sore and open, it doesn't really affect you anymore because you've healed. So sometimes it's okay to take some time to heal. I don't know what that looks like in a practical life, but I wouldn't call it spiritual bypassing. Spiritual bypassing is when we don't want to do the work, and we just are like, oh, everything is, we're inauthentic. That doesn't feel like that at all here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. One last question. Are we done? Okay, I think that we did it. Well, thank you guys for all joining today. I love you, and Casey will see you Tuesday morning, and I'll see you Thursday night for our Egyptian activation. All right. Love, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
Kelly.
you so much.
Thank you.
Love you.
Thank you.
Thank
I love
Kelly.
you.
We love you.
Love you. Thank
Love you.
Love you too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelly. I love you.
Much love to everyone.
Yes. Good
Sending
night,
you much
everyone.
light and love.
Light and love, baby.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you very much.
Gail.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
you.